Japan and South Korea are both undergoing an economic meltdown right now. And a lot of that has to do with the US tariffs that have been levied on both Japan and South Korea. Each country has a tariff rate of 25% now. That was announced just the other day, since no progress had been made with either country in negotiating a trade deal. Both Japan and Korea have had a contracting GDP in the first quarter, and they'll probably have contracting GDPs in the second quarter. Japan's exports to the United States are about $150 billion in the previous year, in the past year, 2024, I believe. And the US is Japan's largest export market. And the largest industry that Japan has exporting to the United States is the automotive industry. Cars are the number one export from Japan to the United States. So they have the 25% tariff on the country as a whole, as well as the 25% sectoral tariffs on cars. Now, with Korea, the United States is the second largest trading partner, and they also export a lot of cars to the United States. They also export a lot of steel. Japan does too. Japan also exports plenty of machinery. Same with Korea. They export a lot of the same things. And they're both now trying to negotiate with the Trump administration over these tariffs that have been imposed. Now, the tariffs have been imposed starting August 1st, and I believe it's because there was no adequate progress being made. Japan has even said they're not in a rush to negotiate a deal if it's the wrong deal. They're looking for the right kind of deal. They're looking for major reductions in automotive, and they also don't want to import a lot more US agricultural goods. So they seem to be willing to pay the tariffs until they get the deal that they want. I don't know that the deal that they want is actually possible because the cars are such a big problem for the United States, the made in Japan cars being imported into the United States. And Japan really doesn't want to give that up at all. In a previous video I did on Japan, we saw Bank of Japan data showing that the Japanese auto manufacturers are eating the entire amount of the 25% tariff. And it's just a question of how much longer can they afford to do that. I know one thing they will be doing is they will be increasing their automobile production in the United States, and the Japanese auto industry is suffering as a whole. Korea is kind of in the same boat. We don't have as much information from Korea about what's going on with their car manufacturers, but I would assume that it's going to be the same kind of situation with Korea. They have Hyundai and Kia. They don't want to be losing market share in the United States. Also, I do know that Hyundai is building a major manufacturing facility in the United States in Georgia, and I believe that'll be coming online next year. So they'll probably be producing a lot more in the United States anyway. Howard Lutnick is handling the negotiations with Japan, and it sounded like he was fine with taking as much time as they want in the knowledge that tariffs are going to be applied beginning August 1st. So I don't think there's a real rush on the US part either because the tariffs will be applied. And if it takes Japan a long time to come to a deal, and same with Korea, it takes Korea a long time to reach a deal with the United States, something they find acceptable, and also, of course, something that the United States finds acceptable, the tariffs will be applied until those deals are reached. The other thing that Donald Trump mentioned today is they're now going to also apply a 50% tariff to copper. So imports of copper, copper is the third most used metal in the United States after steel and aluminum. And so tariffs are going up on copper, and this is to spur the growth of the copper industry in the United States. And the tariff will be 50% on copper. Additionally, Trump also mentioned a 200% tariff on pharmaceuticals. Now, the tariff on pharmaceuticals probably won't be applied for a year or year and a half. Trump said he wanted to give the pharmaceutical industry time to move their production to the United States. And in addition to that, the pharmaceutical industry has already committed large investments to the United States. I made a video on this before about $166 billion worth of investments committed just this year in the pharmaceutical industry for manufacturing and research in the United States. However, the pharmaceutical industry is huge and there's still a lot of production being done outside the United States. And I believe the Trump administration's purpose is to get as much of the manufacturing back to the United States, especially when it's US consumers that are purchasing these pharmaceuticals. Oh, and the copper tariff is probably going into effect around the end of the month, or who knows, maybe the 1st of August to put it in line with the other things going on. Anyway, if you're interested in economic topics like these, please subscribe to my channel. I'll be bringing more to you. And if you like the video, please give it a like on your way out. And until next time.